editing artifacts. So, you did a record of assessment. Then you should make sure that it has no artifacts. Please open HRV tab. It belongs to the Results tab. Firstly, let's clear up what exactly ECG means and how we should read it. ECG, or electrocardiogram, is graphical recording of the cardiac electrical activity in the shape of deviations from the isoelectric line, that is, analysis of the heart beating according to the timeline. You may see on the two-dimensional graph on the horizontal scale time in seconds and on the vertical scale amplitude of heart beating in microvolt. Each R wave has its marker. Marker is a very important concept. You must remember it for editing artifacts. A distance between two R waves is called RR interval. You may see a sequential number at the top of each interval. Nearby, there is a duration of this interval in milliseconds. It is within brackets. Well, we need to check our record for the presence of artifacts. Artifacts are ECG segments that require editing in the Pulse software. Various factors causes the artifacts. For instance, incorrect recognition of R waves, interference, temporary loss of contact, or patient's movements. Pulse marks most of the artifacts in yellow. One must edit artifacts because they bring inaccuracy in software calculations, and as a result, you may have invalid assessment results in the end. Now let's go through the types of artifacts. There are several of them. First of all, it is marker artifact. It can be additional, missing or dislocated marker. Then it can be physical artifacts. For example, electromagnetic influences, radio signal, poor electrode contact, or maybe conductor break or some vibrations. Mechanical artifacts appearing due to movements of a patient and electrodes. Physiological artifacts. They are connected to the biological processes that take place in our body. For example, ventricular and auricular extrasystole, heart physiology, sinoatrial block and auricular fibrillation. Another reason for physiological artifacts appearing may be non-stationary periods. Such periods develop from the speech of a patient, his breathing manoeuvres, switching to some mental processes, some external factors, as for example falling asleep or meditation, or some stress reaction. Let's learn to edit each type of artifacts. Sometimes you may see on your ECG recording that each R wave has a marker, but some particular heart interval has unnecessary additional marker inside itself. In this case, please put your cursor at this unnecessary additional marker and click the right button of your mouse or your touchpad, and please choose from the menu Remove R marker. In other cases, you may see a missing marker. In this case, you have to put your cursor near this R wave, which requires a marker, and again click the right button of your mouse or your touchpad. You will see a pop-up menu and where you should choose Insert R marker. In other cases, you may see dislocated marker. Then you have to put your cursor near this marker, then click the left button of your mouse or your touchpad, and having it pressed, just pull it to the necessary place, to the corresponding R wave. Pulse is really sensitive instrument. That's why different noises may appear in your electrocardiogram recording, but it's really easy to deal with them. You should just click the right button of your mouse or touchpad to see a pop-up window and then choose a tool Remove RR interval from processing. Let's go next to the physiological artifacts. Extrasystole is an arrhythmic phenomenon of premature heart contraction. It can be both auricular, then the enduring focus is located in the atrium zone, or ventricular, then it is exactly the left and the right cardiac ventricles that gives an heart impulse. In such cases, as a rule, you will see standing together highlighted in yellow heart intervals. And by the way, they will really differ from average on this recording. They can be shorter or longer than average heart interval on this recording. How to find out if it is auricular extrasystole? In this case, among normal cardiac cycles, you will see a short one. QRS complex will be the same as in the whole recording, but just after the extrasystole, you'll see an incomplete compensatory pause. If we are talking about ventricular extrasystole, then you'll see on your recording again some short heart interval, but in this time QRS complex will be changed. It means its shape will differ from the previous ones a lot. After the extrasystole, complete compensatory pause will be registered, and it will be equal to 2 cardiac intervals. When watching such a phenomenon on your recording, you should exclude the shortest interval from processing and also exclude intervals standing to the left and to the right from this short interval. Sinus block is delaying of conducting the impulse from the sinus node to the atrium that leads to the loss of auricular and ventricular contraction. In the case of sinus block, you will see long drawn heart interval, and it will be half as much comparing to the previous one. Sinus block must always be excluded from processing. The next is auricular fibrillation. It is heart rhythm disorder presented by the frequent and chaotic excitations and contractions of the atriums. It is characterized by the absence of the isoelectric line. In this situation, you'll see a wave curve and chaotic fibrillation waves registered. RR intervals are not equal, they differ a lot. Unfortunately, in this case, it is impossible to calculate all the results in a proper way, and patients with such disorder cannot use Veda Pulse to get recommendations. A very special case is a sinus arrhythmia. It is characterized by the quickening and fall of the heart rate. It can be breathing or non-breathing. Now you are watching on your screen exactly breathing sinus arrhythmia. This heart rhythm disorder observed during slow and deep breathing and is most common in young people. By this disorder, you will see breathing fluctuations of RR intervals duration on your electrocardiogram, and their duration will differ in time on more than 15 centésimos of a second. And when breath holding, this arrhythmia disappears. Now let's pay attention to the non-breathing arrhythmia. It manifests in gradual or skipping change of RR intervals duration on more than 15 centésimos of a second. And when breath holding, it is preserved. The more you're operating our device, the better you understand it. And now I am referring to the non-stationary periods. It is really curious topic because our software will not indicate them in yellow color. But please remember that only proper edited record will provide you with a proper result and recommendations. That's why it would be better for you to listen to me now and to remember what I'm saying. Let's start from the artifacts that are connected to the patient's talking. One of its signs is a long, slightly sloping, declining line on cardiointervalgram. When talking, the pattern of breathing is changing dramatically. That's why you'd better to exclude such RI intervals from processing. Breathing maneuver also belongs to non-stationary periods. Here we should mention deep breathing, breath holding, and managed breathing. For instance, let's analyze deep breathing situation. In the beginning of your record, you may see just a normal RR intervals. Then, a person makes a deep breath, and a breakdown appears on cardiointervalgram. Before starting your recording, you should instruct your patient. One of the main rules is natural breathing, without some deep exhalation and inhalation. Such breathing maneuvers change the duration of cardiac cycles. And if, for example, you have only one element on your cardiointervalgram, that's not a problem, because it will be averaged out. But in this sample, you may see here is not the only breathing element. We've got a few of them here. Quite big amount of them will change the result of our assessment and will influence indices. You should exclude all intervals belonging to this breathing maneuver. Just click them on electrocardiogram one by one and exclude them. And the program will mark them with a red color. It means that this interval was excluded. Now let's talk about switching to some mental processes, about reactions to external factors and falling asleep, for example. Mental switching is your attention switching. On your screen now you may see two zones of mental switching. Maybe somebody entered the room suddenly, or the patient just remembered about something annoying, or maybe about some upset factors, and his heart rate has changed at this moment. If person is falling asleep, then we get long drawn heart circles on our recording. Now let me say a few words about inverted electrocardiogram record. Honestly speaking, it's not an artifact, but you should know what it is just to work with it. That is how it looks like. To edit it, just click a button Invert ECG. And one more thing for you to know. Let's imagine, for example, the software, the program missed some R waves. Or maybe you just forgot to adjust threshold before starting a record. In this case, please click Recalculate RR button in the pop-up window. Adjust a threshold value. And don't forget to click Accept button. In conclusion, let me remind you that also our software marks zones, marks intervals that differ in the length on more than 20% from average on this recording, and they are not exactly artifacts, so we don't need to edit them. Editing artifacts. So, you did a record of assessment.